You see, what I do for a living is I actually come up with ideas and then I try and sell them to clients, like I'm sure a lot of you do. So I can't just stop at the big thinking. I need to do the big thinking, but then also I'm going to give you a big idea as well for your consideration. So, like I said, I really believe that ideas on demand is an apex problem. Now, I made that up, but what it basically means is it's a problem big enough that it kind of swims around giving other problems problems. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't solve this problem, well, the knock-on effect of all the other little problems in your day-to-day, when you're dealing with your clients, when you're dealing with other people in the agency, they just they get worse, they multiply, you get more and more problems if you don't solve that big apex problem. Now, I'm not sure what the makeup in the room is, but I imagine planners, some creatives, a few account executive types. Am I close? Yeah? Anyone that doesn't do any of those three jobs? Cool. And Jonathan. So that group plus Jonathan, I'm actually talking to all of you, right? Like, some people could think that maybe I was only talking to creatives because we're talking about ideas, but I truly believe everybody in our business needs to be thinking about this problem and solving it every day. Now, it's probably quite convenient to sort of go to the shallow end and let this one sort of swim by and expect, I don't know, creative director person or producer person to solve it for you, but I honestly believe everyone needs to do it. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to hopefully give you a way to do that. So it's got absolutely nothing to do with what's on your business card. This is talking to everyone in this room, and in my humble opinion, everybody in the industry. So I think we should all be commercial creatives. You can imagine my delight when I was asked to speak at CIRCUS, because of the tagline, it just perfectly fits this, right? It's the festival of commercial creativity. So this really fitted my topic and actually what I believe in quite perfectly. So I understand that some people probably agree with this, other people probably don't. I know certainly when I speak to other creative directors around town, they would have you believe that if something is commercial and creative, it's probably selling out. It's probably akin to selling out, which I find ironic because certainly in my experience, the only ideas that actually cut through and actually sell products, like move the needle for clients, are ideas that are commercially creative, not just creative. So there is a tension though. Like, I'm not going to say this is easy because there is a natural tension between creativity and commerciality. And that is pretty simple, right? Commerce needs to happen on time, on budget, as ordered, quite specifically usually, and also be commercial results driven. Okay, you have to have a positive outcome on the commerce of the business. Whereas creativity in its purest form, it's sporadic, it's loose, it kind of happens when it happens, you know? It's unexpected. It actually needs to be unexpected to be good creative. And finally, it's probably got elements, or maybe it's completely for self-expression purposes. So they're at odds, right? Naturally, they are at odds. And this tension between commercial and creative is actually where I've spent most of my career because I'm not an art director, I'm not a copywriter, I'm actually an ideas guy. I kind of sit in the middle of these two worlds. And I've sort of traversed that for, like Eddie said, around 18 years. And that's what interests me. This is kind of my space that I really enjoy. So I couldn't help myself. I have set myself a brief. I have a brief that I'm going to try and answer today. How do we deliver ideas on demand and become creatively accountable? That's the brief that I'm going to try and answer today. Firstly, with some big thinking, and then, like I said, I couldn't resist. I also have an idea that comes off that big thinking at the end. Does that sound fair? Are you guys interested in trying to solve this big, hairy goal or problem? Awesome. Let's do this. All right, so before we do it though, I want to go and have a look at a few commercial creatives from around the world that I think are absolutely nailing this space. And let's just talk about each one and then see if we can find a common thread, because that's where my thinking begins on this. So for example, Tara Moss. I'm not sure if anyone in the room knows who Tara Moss is. Anyone? Great. Really successful writer, Canadian girl, lives in Australia. She's had a multitude of really big selling books. She basically focuses in the crime area. Now what's interesting about Tara is before she writes a book, she actually goes out there and experiences what her characters are going to experience in the book. And I mean, she really goes out there. So for example, she has been strangled. She has shot automatic weapons. She's spent months with the LAPD. She's actually a qualified private investigator. The list goes on. She really, really goes there. She leaves her comfort zone to experience what the subjects in her books are going to experience. Then she comes back and writes it. Some people call her a method writer. I don't know how she feels about that title, but it's interesting to hear her technique, and again, she's been really successful with it. Actors know it too. This is Nicolas Cage, and this is him from one of his first movies called Vampire's Kiss. Has anybody seen that movie? It's a ripper movie. Anyway, Nicolas Cage, in the preparation for this movie, he was actually playing a vampire, and he went through the process of eating live cockroaches and also having bats, like live bats, bite him on the neck in preparation for this movie, which I thought was really interesting. So I kind of Googled a little further and had a little, a sniff around to see what was going on. And he actually has a type of method acting called nouveau shamanic. And it's actually a type of acting where you go and embody the character, go all the way out there, push yourself out of your comfort zone. I'm sure he doesn't usually like being bitten by bats. And you do that in order so that when you come back and you're on the screen, you can really not act, actually just be the character. It's actually beyond acting. And again, he's not the only one doing it. Love him or hate him, he's had a long career, doing pretty well. He is a commercial creative, in my opinion. Also, Tom York from Radiohead. He has a really interesting technique. When he goes to write an album or a song, he actually, before he goes in the studio, he goes out in the real world and he takes a book and he writes down everything he sees, everybody he meets, conversations he has, conversations he overhears. He writes them all down in books for like weeks on end. He then comes back to the studio, he cuts up every single individual line, puts it into a hat, and then draws out two randomly and forces them together into lyrics. It's a really interesting process. So he's out there, he's immersing in the real world, he's doing his thing, then he comes back and combines it, forces it together, and comes up with really fresh lyrics. And again, he's doing this with great success. I mean, he used this exact technique when he was writing the album Kid A. I'm not sure if anybody owns that album, but it went platinum in the first week in the UK alone. So again, having lots of success doing this stuff.